Hey everybody, welcome to season 4 of What's IGN Crushing On. I'm Karen Walby-Solomon and I'm your host, and we're here to talk about what's hot in pop culture. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4 of What's IGN Crushing On. I'm joined today by Kate Pinchuck, the actor and comedian. Hey Kate, how are you?
Hi Karen, I'm good. How are you?
I'm right, can't complain. It's been a busy couple of years for you. I've seen you on screen such a lot. So, how has it been for you?
It doesn't feel as busy as it looks because there've been long periods of nothing between a lot of these projects. So I sometimes forget that it looks like I'm working all the time, which is great. I want it to look like that. That's what I wanted everyone to think. But no, it's just been, I've been really lucky in that it took me a really long time of being in the industry to feel like I was getting the kind of project I wanted to be working on. But I feel very grateful that the few things I have gotten and I'm starting to get are things that are very much aligned with what I want to be doing and the kind of comedy and the kind of TV and movies that I want to be making, which is great because I think a lot of my actor friends have to do so many things that are so not the thing you want to do, but are just the thing you do for money. And I'm oh no, I don't have the thing I do for money. I'm lucky that I have the thing I do that I like.
It's amazing. So how did you find your way into comedy? Is this always been your dream, or was it a route that you found along the way?
Oh no, it was definitely never my dream. Honestly, I only started really watching stand-up comedy after I started doing stand-up comedy. I'm not I wasn't a comedy fan or anything really. And I think that's because the comedy I'd seen was a couple dudes maybe doing comedy that I didn't relate to, that felt a little bit derogatory. And I was oh, I don't like this genre, which is a wild thing to say about an entire medium performance. But I ended up starting stand-up because a couple of my friends that I was at uni at booked us a stand-up show. And I used to do improv comedy at university. I was in an improv group, and a couple people who were in stand-up were telling me to do stand-up. And I was no, I'd never do stand-up. And then one of them just booked a show at the Arts Festival and was cool, well, you're doing this. And I was okay, well, I'll try it. And if I don't like it, I won't do it. And I went and watched a bunch of stand-up before I went on stage because I was I need to see other people sucking at this and then being okay and surviving it so that I can do it. Then I started and I loved it. And I also wasn't really getting any acting work. So it was this chance to carry on being on stage and performing and writing and making something where really you don't need anything other than yourself. You don't need props. You don't need rehearsal space. There's just a room and someone else's microphone and you just pitch up. And so it was a very cool way to have some kind of control over my career in the early years of where you're very much dependent on if other people want to give you work, which they didn't.
But, I've seen you live quite a few times and you take a lot of your material from your own experience. How vulnerable do you feel you have to be? Is it these are the things I'm okay to talk about? Or is it these are, therapeutically I'm working through these things? And
yeah, I think sometimes I find the line when I do it and I'm oh, I wasn't ready to talk about that yet. I've spoken about stuff before that I'm oh, I'm actually not comfortable enough sharing that with strangers. And sometimes I only figure that out when I do it on stage. But usually the stuff I'm speaking about, sometimes it is a way to process some of the stuff. I'm not really an observational comedian so much, I think. I don't know. I struggle to write about anything that isn't my experience because it feels, just for me, that's not true for everyone. It just feels a bit dishonest when it comes out of my mouth. So this also the things that I say that make people laugh are usually the things that are about me. So that's, and my experiences. So it just kind of made sense to do that. But also I'm quite open in terms of what I am comfortable talking about. And I feel like it helps me. The stuff that like was shameful stuff for me, I feel like I can destigmatize like for myself, and then I mean hopefully for other people by talking about it on stage. Like I currently have a this is a soft launch of me telling everyone I have herpes happening on your podcast right now. So I currently am working on I'm currently working on a bit about that because it's like so stigmatized. And when I started reading up about it, I was like, oh, this is super common. There's like almost 100% chance that whatever room I'm doing stand up in, someone in that room has herpes. So why am I not speaking about this? But yeah, it took me a little while before I was like, I'm cool to stand in a microphone and be like, hey, everybody, guess what? But yeah, I feel like I do stand up about, sorry, I can talk about stand up for so long. I do stand up about like this. Okay, great. The stuff that like I wish I could have seen when I was a young girl, when I was like a teenage girl, the stuff I wish I could have seen about like dating and sex and sexuality and the stuff that would have like saved me a lot of therapy and shame, I guess I try to talk about.
I mean, when we think about like South African comedy, if we think about like the 90s and the early 2000s, it's mostly dominated by men. But now there's a lot more women and a lot more women talking about sex. And South Africa is such a conservative country. How do you sort of like bridge that gap, being like, breaking the stigma of talking about sex and, other things related to women, even like menstruation? People didn't talk about that shit. But like,
Oof,
talking
they
about
hate it.
those things, maybe I should ask, how does the audience react to those kind of topics?
So I think like the more experience I've gotten as a comedian, the better I am at navigating that stuff. Because early on, I was just like, here it is, in your face, hand jobs. And then that doesn't really give the audience space to like process or digest what's happening. So I think that's the challenge, is like taking these very conservative audiences and trying to make them open to listening to something. So I've learned a little bit more about like start talking about sex later on in my set once they like me already. Because if they like me, then they'll listen to that. If I start straight off the bat with that, it's less likely they'll be open to it. But it's also the cool thing about doing stand up here is the audiences are so diverse in wherever you are, in like Cape Town or Joburg or whatever. So you also go from like a room of like students who are super cool to talk about that to like some kind of conservative older crowd. And bridging that gap is weird. I think it's like always with comedy, just trial and error. And every time it doesn't work, I'm like, okay, well, that's another kind of lesson on like how best to bridge this topic. And it is different for different. It's also like you have to kind of read the room. And so I like sometimes drop in a little bit of a less explicit joke just to test them and see if they're ready and then go into it. But I also have found that talking about it without shame is the key. That when I'm worried about how this material is going to go down, they get worried. So if I'm not bothered and uncomfortable, then it's much more likely to get through to people. And some people also will just hate me regardless. And that's you gotta be okay with that. Which I'm not, but like I'm trying to be.
But have you noticed like the comedy scene in South Africa now that there are more women? Has the industry sort of like changed?
A little bit. I think there's still this thing of like one woman on a show is enough. That like more than one woman on a lineup makes it like a woman's show. So I noticed that like if you look at lineups of shows and festivals and stuff, you won't notice a lot of women at the same time. But I do think the more women are on stage, the more women are get encouraged to do stand up. So I think we'll see the growth like exponentially, which is great because I mean, I think a lot of women don't even consider that stand up is like an option for them. It's not really what you tell funny women to do. You tell funny men to do stand up. No one tells funny women. They're like, be a funny actor.
Men don't even need to be funny.
Yeah, no, well, exactly. Men just need to believe in themselves, which is not that much to ask. I do think that with like the social justice movements that we're seeing, there's like definitely more of an awareness around the fact that women have, well, that everyone is having a very different experience based on like their kind of multiple intersections of social things going on and identity things. So I think definitely among the comedians and audiences, there's like more of an awareness of social politics, which helps people come into the space.
So I want to segue to talk about your acting a bit. So you have your new film Late Bloomer just released on Mnet, and it's going to be on
Yes.
Showmax at the end of the month. So tell us more about this film.
So it was very cool. This is the first feature film I've ever done, so that was super exciting. And it's written and directed by one of my like absolute idols, Amy Jeffter, who's came up in like theater and has done the most phenomenal things in film. And so it was just a little bit surreal for me. We also shot it like down the road from the house I grew up in Oz, which was so wild because it was like where I used to walk to the park. And so it was like I got like very emotional about that. It was very full circle. But yeah, it was just, they called my agent. And it was also like one of the first times that I haven't auditioned for something, that I've been asked to do something. So that was like a very
Oh, it's
cool
amazing.
thing. Yeah, because like, I'm like, I didn't think anyone knew who I was. So that was like a cool, I was like, oh, I like said to my agent, I was like, are you sure they mean me and they like don't have the wrong Kate? She was like, oh my God, please, for fuck's sakes. Like, they've like written your whole full name. And I was like, just like, please double check. Like, I don't want to pitch up. And they're like, oh no, not this one. But it was so much fun. It was also like a fresh rom-com. It was a cool South African rom-com. Nicole Fortin, who plays the lead character, Lauren, is like phenomenal and was a dream to work with. And it's also like, I don't know, when I read the script, I was just like, there are so few rom-coms that are actually funny.
Yeah.
So nice to see one that is funny and like, it's just a phenomenal cast. No, it was a great experience shooting that. And I got to play with a droll.
So how much of it, how much improv did you do in the film, or was it all written?
Amy was pretty cool with like letting us extend some scenes with improv. And look, I'm quite hard to contain as an actor in terms of doing like I really struggle to not improvise. It's because it's so much fun. And I'm like, also all the stuff I've worked on just very luckily has been stuff that encourages that, which is like not the case. So sometimes I start improvising and I'm like, shit, I don't know if these people want this at all. Or if they're going to be like, hey, Kate, thanks, but please, the script is like very carefully written. But Amy was super chilled with that. And like Nicole and I figured out some stuff about our characters and added things in. So there's like tiny little moments. And also, you know, as an actor, like you get to take the script and the character and then kind of flesh it out for yourself in terms of like a backstory and all that. I mean, I really enjoy that, like that kind of part of acting. And then like all the little physical things are also what's part of the fun for me. Is like finding in the script what feels like tiny little details and nuances about that character.
So wait, so tell us more about your character.
Oh, so Annika, she's like the quirky roommate, which is like the role I was obviously born to play. And she has this great dynamic. So Nicole's the lead, Lauren, who the movie is about, is this like party girl who's really cool and like doesn't care and doesn't necessarily have a life together. And my character's like a bit younger than her and is like kind of this rich, privileged, like upper middle class, doesn't have a job, just like we decided she's like really cottage core, like she like knits and like does DIY and goes jogging and does not like really live in this realm of reality and has a very like warped sense of what reality is, but is quite lonely. And so she's quite jealous of Lauren's life. And like her whole thing is she wants to be best friends with her, but Lauren is like very much not interested in Annika's friendship attempts. So that's their kind of dynamic. But she's a lot of fun to play. She's kind of a very classic mid-20s Cape Town white girl who like makes her own kombucha.
I
and
feel like I've made many of
stuff.
those.
Which,
Many.
yeah,
I'm so
right,
familiar.
totally. Like,
Um, so you said you guys did you and Amy work on the backstory of the character together, or was this something like did she give you like a Bible before?
what was so cool about this is we had like a table read with the full cast before, and then we had sessions with Amy and
Oh,
Nicole to like figure out the character relationships, and which is like quite unusual in film, right, and TV stuff,
mhm,
because it's like quite a fast paced production cycle. So I'm from theater, so that's sort of what I'm used to, but
mhm,
that's not as common. So it was really nice to actually get to sit down with the director and like talk about the character and, my thoughts on her and
mhm,
her thoughts on her and kind of build her together. And then like for all the acting stuff I do, I like go home after that and do my own like homework on the character. Like I always like make a little playlist of what the
mm,
character would listen to and write out like little backstory things based on what we've discussed and always like based on the script. But yeah, it was
mm,
cool. You don't usually do that in film. It's usually like, let's get this done. So
mm.
that was something that was like a really nice theater thing that was brought to this space.
And okay, so I have to ask, like, in Tali's Baby Diary, Tarryn was like such a standout character. Like the response
Thank
that you
you.
must have gotten after that, because I saw the tweets and everybody was like standing her so much. What was the response after that? Because she was my favorite, like hands down. Like I love the show, I love
Thank
everybody else.
you.
It was Taryn. I think I've like thousands of tweets about how much I was a fan of Taryn. But
Oh my
yeah, so
gosh.
what was the response like
Thank
after
you.
that?
Oh, it's good. I mean, do you know what's so funny? It's like I did the thing you're like not supposed to do. And I like searched the hashtag Tali's Baby Diary
Mm.
to see what people were saying because I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see like all the nice things. And like I obviously found nice stuff. I found one mean tweet about Tarryn, and that's the only one I remember.
Oh
Like that's the only one that's embedded itself in my brain are the exact words from the meme
no.
tweet. And I was like, this is exactly why they tell you not to look at this, you fool. But in real life, people were very nice about it. And it was, yeah, it's weird because with masks and stuff, like people don't
Mm,
always recognize if they know you, but I have like very this. I mean, my hair is tied up now, but my hair is quite distinctive, and my glasses are quite distinctive. So I'm like, it's quite
mm.
hard to mistake me. But yeah, it was the first time I like for since kind of doing comedy stuff that people were like coming up to me, which was so weird. Uh, but yeah, people really responded well to Taryn, which I liked a lot because she was. I mean, she's like such a dream to play. Can't wait to do season 3 with her as well because she's just so.
Oh,
She's like just like so unacceptable in like so many ways.
when she came with that like Woolworths packet, oh, I will never forget that scene. And
Oh,
her just like getting onto the stool, taking out and they're like, oh no, best character ever.
oh, thank you.
So
I'm glad. It's so fun to play someone so oblivious in a world where like everyone cares so much about what people think about them. Playing someone who really doesn't is like so funny because just irritates all the other characters so much.
oh, she was the best. So so what like who are your comedy icons? Like I know you said you didn't watch stand up before, but I mean like not only stand up, like comedy actors, everything.
Yeah, so I do watch stand up now, but not. I don't watch too much because like I worry that I'm gonna accidentally steal someone's joke, mm,
Mm,
which has never happened. I don't know why I'm worried about that. Especially because like I mostly talk about my own stuff. But yeah, so Ali Wong was like a revelation for me
mm,
when her specials came out. Just because I don't know, she's just so incredibly funny and like not a word is wasted. So she is definitely one of my faves. Michelle Wolf as well, I'm a huge fan of. Bo Burnham, I was
mm,
Bo Burnham. I was actually always a fan of. because he's like a lot more theatrical.
Yeah.
And I also just it's so hard. I know I like never know how to answer this question because it really depends on who I'm watching at the time. Amy Poehler also was like massive for me. I
Was
like
as an
Parks and
improv
Rec and
background.
SNL. Yeah, and just as someone who's like so character focused, that was like very cool to watch. And Mindy Kaling also actually probably was like my number one because she's a writer and an actor, and she also like wrote herself all these cool roles that she wasn't getting cast in, which is such an awesome thing to do. I also, you know what, I mainly like people who've written autobiographies because then I feel like I know them.
No.
Mindy Kaling's are so good.
I was just like, do I love Mindy Kaling so? I mean, I do like her shows, but I mean, I loved her books so much. I was like, everything she writes is so funny. I was like, nobody can say she's not funny because for me, I'm like, her shows are funny, her books are funny, everything.
She's so funny, and like, she's written like all of the best episodes of The Office. She's her shows are so good. I really want to watch Sex Lives of College Girls. I haven't watched that yet, her latest one. Because apparently it's really good. But yeah, I'm obsessed with her books. I like reread them all the time. Also because there's just great advice in there, and she is so relatable and honest, and I really like that. I find her very honest. Also, I'm like so obsessed with finding out if BJ Novak is the father of her child. Like, I will not rest.
I'm obsessed with the two of them too, and this is gonna sound weird, but anyway, so I commented on like a Reddit like celeb thing, and I'm like, oh, because somebody was like, no, the father of the children are donors. Then I was like, yeah, but she said the first one was like a surprise pregnancy. They're like, no, she's lying. So this person says they know and they have inside information. That was arguing with me on Reddit, and they say that it's donors. But I don't know. I still believe that at least the first child is BJ's child. Even if it's not true, I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah, I want it to be true. I like ship them so much. I just want them to be. They're like so secretive about it, and I'm like, I'm sure they're doing it, but I don't know if they are doing the things.
But also they like to like
I like really want her. They do that as well. They like really mess with you. They have this like total control over everyone, and they like. My one friend is like, literally, please just get really famous, just famous enough that you can find out who the father of Mindy's children are. That's like all I need to do.
Please, actually, that's a valid reason.
I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's a better motivation than anything, I think. Finding out more about Mindy's children. No, I love her so much.
So Kate, what's next for you?
That is such a good question. Season 3 of Tali's is in the writing process, which is very exciting because I mean, it's so, it's so hard to like find a character you love and then never get to play that character again. So it's like so cool to go back to a character. So I can't wait for that. And then
it's gonna be Tarryn and Rolf's wedding.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. I have no idea. That's like all the information I have is that it's like in the writing process. But I would love that. I feel like they would be the worst best couple. That would be
the most chaotic wedding ever.
Insane. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Oh, that would be so funny. I mean, look, I'll drop a line and I'll just be like, hey guys, why don't you? Yeah, writers love actors just being like, hey, please do this. I want to do that. No, I don't know. I mean, it's also like, what more can Tarryn do? Like I was fully dressed in gold. I'm like nervous for what stunts I'm going to do next time. I was also like upside down in the one scene for so long. It's like such a short scene, but we filmed it right after lunch. And I had to keep going upside down and then pulling myself up. And at some point I was like, I'm going to throw up so hard. Like this counts as stunts. but it doesn't look like a stunt. It looks like very much not a stunt, but I feel like it counts as a stunt. I feel like I'm a stunt woman. So that's next. And then comedy-wise, stand-up comedy is like very much back. I don't know if you've been to any shows,
I
but
haven't, but
it's like we're back. It's back. And I think people are also just like so desperate to go out and laugh and have a good time and not talk about like the pandemic. So that's super cool. It's like the first time since pre-COVID that all the gigs, the audiences are like absolutely packed, which is just such a dream. I know, because often, a lot of comedy is like doing shows to 5 people, which is very character building, but it's not always the dream. So
you
it's
didn't do
great.
the
But
online
people are
shows.
like, I did
People
a
were
few online
complaining.
shows and then I was like, I can't do this. There's nothing about this that is like what I like about comedy. It was,
Yeah.
on the one hand, it was like you have no response at all. So I was just like, oh, I'm just going to imagine that I'm like absolutely killing because I'm getting no feedback whatsoever. So I can just imagine any audience response I want. But it's kind of boring not getting that's kind of what grows you and grows your comedy and grows your jokes. It's like the interaction with the audience and their response sort of gives you information. That's also what's like fun. There's some stuff that you cannot substitute for like being in a room with other people. And so, yeah, I'm really glad that's back and I'm planning some shows. I'm working on my first hour, which is exciting. For stand-up. I don't know what to call it because all the dudes call them their one-man show, but I don't want to call it like my one-woman show because it sounds like it's about my period, which like it probably will be a bit, but you know what I mean? It like doesn't sound the same. So I'm calling it my hour, which I don't know what to call it. But anyway, I'm working on that right now. I'm busy writing that. So hopefully sometime this year I'll do that and start building that up. And yeah, there's comedy. I mean, comedy is like all over at the moment. There's comedy more than there was pre-pandemic, which is just like so much fun. So that's like mainly what I'm doing. Actually, before you called me, I'm busy building my website and it's just so boring. So that's so you guys can look out for that. That's gonna come and I'm gonna have loved making it. I'm also planning to do more TikToks. That's one of the things I'm planning to do. I don't know. I hate how much you have to do like social media stuff now. Because I don't really want to do that.
Like I know, especially like the older comics were complaining about how much they have to. Like I'm like, you're already old, and then you've got to figure out how to work Instagram and
Yeah.
TikTok, and most of your audiences on Facebook. And I'm like,
Well,
shame.
totally. Like, yeah, your audience, if they've come, but it's also like if you don't really have much of an audience, you like have to build it online. Also, because people like book people based on, you get work based on how many fucking followers you have, which like I understand the logic behind that. People are looking at this thing. I am just resentful of it because I've put like no effort into my social media and I'm like, why does no one follow me? This is such bullshit. So it's honestly on my to-do list is like make online content, but I'm also these like Gen Zs thinking content. It's not an effort for them. It's just like how they think. They can just turn it up. Like I don't think in like little bits of fucking content. I think in like jokes or a play or like a movie or whatever. I don't think in like little 15-second snippets. So I'm very resentful of the fact that I have to do this, but I've also just finally accepted that I need to stop fighting and just like bite the bullet and do it. I'm trying to tweet every day and it's not going well. I have to set myself goals. But yeah, no, I'm going to try make more stuff. Also, I guess I think you like, it's so hard not to get focused on like what other people are going to think of it and how they're going to respond. And sometimes I'll make something and people are like mean to me about it. And then I'm like, I don't think that this hurts my feelings. I don't like that. But also I think you have to like disconnect from what other people are going to think and just make something for the sake of having fun making something, which I'm busy grappling with. I mean, this doesn't really answer your question. Like, what's next for you? I'm going to make more TikToks. It's like such a shitty answer. I'm so sorry. I don't know. It's also, look, there's like, Sorry. No, I don't know. There's like stuff, I think there's stuff coming up. I don't know. It's also like, there's, there's other stuff. Obviously, I'm going to be doing other stuff, but like, I don't know. There's points, being a creative or like an artist or whatever the fuck is like, there's points where you're like super busy for like 2 months. And then there's points where you have like 4 months where you're like, oh, fuck, do I have to go back to teaching? So I'm constantly oscillating between those things. I think it definitely looks, I'm like quite careful to space out my Instagram so that it looks like I'm always working, because I feel like people will give me more work if they think I'm in demand. But the truth is, like, often I'm just fucking sitting at home being like, who do I need to convince to get, who do I got to blow to get a job? No, I'm so sorry. That's so horrible. I should not have said that. I'm so sorry.
So what you're saying is people should check your Instagram to see what you're doing next, because that.
Yes, yes.
And like where you and
that
where
is what
you're
I'm saying.
performing.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. That is what I'm saying. Yes, that is where all my information is on my Instagram and my stories and whatever. That's where all my shows are. You can't post posters for shows on like actual Instagram because Instagram throttles them because they want you to sponsor them. So all the posters are always in stories. But that's where, I mean, follow like 5 South African comedians, and that's all you need to do to find out every single show. We're all on the same shows. We're all sharing a bunch of things. So I'm Kenise Sirka, who's this phenomenal comic who was born in South Africa and like made her career in India. She's been there for the past, I think, like 20 years. She's in town at the moment, and we're doing a show together. It'll be on like the 4th, 5th, and 6th of March. So it doesn't have a name yet, but if you follow either of us on Instagram, that's the next thing I'm going to be doing. So please come to that. Yeah, that's going to be super fun. That's going to be super fun. It's great. You know, like comedians from around the world are the same. It's so nice. Comedians are always just comedians. It's so funny. It's like easy to get on with comedians. And there's like it's like the same people just in different places. It's great.
Who would you say was your first celebrity crush?
You know, I've been thinking about this because my boyfriend's was, I asked him this yesterday and he said probably one of the Spice Girls, and I said which one, and he said all of them, which I thought was great. And I was trying to think what I was, do you know, I think like Aladdin from Aladdin, probably, if that counts. I was like very into Aladdin, which like looking back is, I don't know, or like someone from a magazine that I don't know, like one of those like boy band dudes, like the dudes from like Busted or Blue or whatever. But I'm trying to think of like, there must
I love your boy band is like Busted. Like I thought you were gonna say like one of like the common ones. I was like, oh, Busted. I remember when my cousin was obsessed with Charlie from Busted. Like she will still say that's her
yes.
The one with the eyebrows.
I don't know why. Yes, the one with the eyebrow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so funny. I know. I think I read Mizz Magazine.
Ah, he's love
like
Mizz.
British magazine. It was the best. And so like my whole sphere of knowledge was these like weird British underground bands. Do you know who also, like Ziggy from Backstage, probably? I don't know if you remember him. I love Backstage.
Yeah, I do. I do remember him. When I asked some, like on Twitter, something like people's first South African celebrity crush, almost everybody said him. Like,
really?
He was like super popular.
Oh, funny. That's so interesting. Yeah, and then probably something boring like Brad Pitt. I don't know. This is such a hard question. Who's your first celebrity crush?
My first celebrity crush, I've said this a few times, but this is quite embarrassing. But John Stamos from Full House.
That's a good one. He's a hottie. That's
Yeah,
so
he was. I
funny.
named my dog after him. I loved him so much.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
my dog was
That's so
named John
cute.
Stamos. John
Oh,
Stamos.
full name.
Full name, and
Full. I
and it
love
was a
that
girl,
so much.
and it was a girl, and we called
Oh my
all the
gosh. That's very progressive. John neutral name, John Stamos. That is such a great name. I kind of want to call a dog John Stamos now. That's such a funny dog name. John. You know, I love giving animals like full names of celebrities. My friend had these fish. I called one of them Tobey Maguire, and it made me laugh so much. I called the other one Shania Twain, and I was like, "Why is this so funny?" It's something so funny about giving animals like full celebrity names. It's like name and surname. I don't know. Also, the people in the movie. There's this movie called Debs that I don't know if anyone has ever seen it. It's like this
I don't even vaguely
teen
remember.
spy academy. It was a teen spy academy movie, and then the one spy ends up hooking up with the supervillain. I think her name was Lucy Diamond. I think. And I was like, I love this movie so much. I just watched it so much, and it took me like so long to realize why I love that movie so much. Anyway, Lucy Diamond from Debs. I think that's the character's name. The supervillain. Yeah. Though I don't know what, these are really random and weird. I'm sorry.
No, but that's how it
I'm going to go with Aladdin. Yeah. And it's also, there's like no reason. It's just like something about, it's also just like whatever you're exposed to.
Yeah.
As a young person, you're like, oh, I'm in love with this. I'm in love with Aladdin because that's what I'm watching right now.
Yeah. I think the last person also, somebody also said quite recently, Prince Eric. So I'm like, people are, the animated ones are coming through strong.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not alone. Yeah, I think like a lot of the animated characters in Disney movies, I was like so into. Like the dude in Mulan as well, I was massively into.
Li Shang. Li Shang?
Yes, I think it's Li Shang, yeah. I know, I couldn't remember the second part of his name. Yeah, like I had lots of crushes on animated characters. That is normal. If that's what you're watching. Okay, suddenly I'm like having a little bit of an identity crisis now. Is that like something wrong with me? But those are all my crushes.
But Kate, thank you so much for joining us. This was lovely.
Oh, it was so nice to talk to you, finally, because I think we've only communicated via social medias. So it's actually such a delight to talk to you in real life.
Yeah, it was great.
And I hope I get to see you at a show soon.
Yeah, you probably will. I probably will be at a show soon. I'll check your socials and see when you have a show coming up.
Thank you. If I remember to post it. And keep your eyes on my TikTok, which may or may not.
Thank you so much.
One more thing. We will be hosting our first ever live in-person Crashing On movie night on the 24th of February at Ster-Kinekor Cavendish in Cape Town. We'll be watching the film Blacklight, which is the new Liam Neeson action thriller, and it follows Travis Block, played by Liam, who is a government operative coming to terms with his shadowy past. When he discovers a plot targeting US citizens, Block finds himself in the crosshairs of the FBI director he once helped protect. In order to be one of the Crashing On listeners at the screening and meet us and have a good time, go to crashingonpodcast.com/competitions and enter your details. It's going to be a fun night and we are so excited to meet you. This is the trailer for Blacklight.
One day you wake up and realize you're not sure who the good guys are anymore.
You're a federal agent involved in a secret FBI program.
Off the books.
What kind of bad stuff do you do?
Breaking and entering. Physical coercion. You name it, I've probably done it.
Murder?
Not on my menu.
Grandpa!
Gabe, I've been thinking. Maybe it's time I hang it up.
No, Travis, not an option.
I know I wasn't a great father, but I'd like to be the best grandfather I can be.
Natalie doesn't need a fixer like you. I've been writing about the story for over a year. The United States government is killing innocent civilians under the guise of protecting democracy.
Under whose orders?
The director of the FBI. How many more would have to die for you to stop looking the other way?
You need to come clean, Gabe.
You're confused about our relationship. You are my weapon. You work for me.
Count me out.
You show me a little gratitude if you want a normal life.
My end is now. Where's my family? If I find out you had anything to do with my granddaughter disappearing, you're gonna need more men.
You'll be finished before the day is over.
Everything I did was for you!
Are you really gonna shoot me, Travis?
Yes, I will.
Grandpa, are you a good guy?
I wanna be.
Me, you can find at Karen Welby on Instagram, at Karen Welby's with an S on Twitter, and sign up for my newsletter, Wildest Dreams, at wildestdreams.substack.com. The podcast can be found at Crushing on Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can find us at What's IGN Crushing on YouTube, and you can find more information about this and all our other episodes on our website, crushingonpodcast.com. Send any feedback to mail@crushingonpodcast.com, and you can send us voice notes at +27 78 362 2566. Join our Facebook group, Crushing on Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. The show is produced by me, Karen, as well as Rebecca Barches and Leanne Phillipson. The show is edited by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Nathifa Maroof, and the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can, any way that you can. Keep up to date with episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others to find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then.